Hey y'all, real quick, I want to share something with y'all. So earlier today, I was taking a shower. I was doing my everything shower. So I washed my hair, I'm shaving. You know, we do everything during this shower that we may not do every other time we shower, right? We really take our time with our self-care when we do an everything shower. We're shaving, exfoliating, we're doing the whole thing. So it takes a while, right? So as I'm in the shower, which is one of the places I can hear God speak to me the most, one of the places, because the most is in my dreams, but that's one of the places where he just speaks and I just speak. So I'm in the shower and I'm thinking about one of my best friends, just letting my thoughts flow. And she released a video saying how she went on a date last night and it was an Ephesians 3:20 moment. Like it was exceedingly above all that she can ask, think, or imagine. So I'm like, I wonder what made it an Ephesians 3:20 date. I'm like, I wonder what made it so good that it felt like an Ephesians 3:20 moment, right? And as I'm sitting there wondering that, God spoke something to me, and I'm never going to look at this verse the same way. Ephesians 3:20, it says, he's able to do exceedingly above all that we can ask, think, or imagine. God spoke to me and said, you set the baseline for what Ephesians 3:20 looks like. We quote Ephesians 3:20 all the time, but we quote it incorrectly as if God is just going to blow our minds no matter what. But he's only going to exceed your level of ask, your level of thought, your level of imagination. So if your baseline is mediocre or small, the exceeding is going to exceed that in an abundant way. But if your baseline is bold, your faith is big, and your imagination is stretched to no return, the exceeding is going to be on a whole nother level. Let me break it down. If all you ever pray is, Lord, send me a husband who loves you, who treats me right and has a good job, that's your ask, think, and imagine, okay? That you're setting the baseline. So yes, when God exceeds that, he may send a man who doesn't just have a job, but he owns businesses. He doesn't just treat you right, but he covers you, leads you, washes you in the word. He doesn't just love God, he's consumed with his calling and he pushes you deeper into yours. But if your ask, your thoughts, your imagination stops at bare minimum wrapped in Christian packaging, that's where God's exceeding begins. You set the baseline based on what you ask, think, or imagine. If your faith dares to ask for marriage that shifts nations, a marriage that births ministries, that shakes hell itself, then exceeding is going to hit on a whole nother level because God will always exceed. But you determine where he starts. You determine that baseline. So what baseline are you setting for yourself? What are you asking, thinking, and imagining in your life for God to exceed? Because the verse says, to him who is able to do exceedingly above all that you can ask, that you can think, that you can imagine. So his exceedingly above is going to be based on what you ask, what you think, and what you imagine. So you set the baseline. So are you asking bigger? Are you thinking bigger? Are you imagining bigger? Because the bigger you're asking, thinking, and imagining, the bigger the exceedingly abundantly is going to look in your life. But you set the baseline. And I've never heard anybody teach me that before. Like I said, when I hear the verse, people, pastors, whoever quote that verse like God is just going to come through, you get a big blessing, you get a mind-blowing blessing, that's not what he's saying. He's able to do exceedingly, abundantly above all that you can ask, think, or imagine. You set the base for what God is going to exceed. And I pray that this makes sense. Because I got out of the shower and I was just like, wow, God, no one ever said it to me like that. So if a person is thinking asking and imagining mediocre, God's going to exceed that exceedingly abundantly all that they're asking for, thinking on, or imagining. But if mine is big, my ask is huge. My think is huge. My imagining is huge when it comes to God. When he does an Ephesians 3:20 in my life, it's going to look a lot different than someone who has a mediocre or a small think, ask, and imagine. Hope that makes sense. Have a great Saturday.